The twin suns of Zythera hung low over the city, casting long orange shadows across the towering crystalline spires that pierced the sky like jagged shards of glass. Eli Turner stepped off the hover train, his boots crunching against the fine reddish sand of the station platform. He had never seen a city like this, alien yet strangely alive, buzzing with energy and the quiet hum of bioluminescent technology. Everything about Zythera felt alive. The buildings seemed to breathe, and the soft, warm wind carried scents of minerals, exotic flora, and something undefinably sweet. Eli adjusted his satchel, feeling the weight of his equipment and the nervous anticipation in his chest. This was the moment he had trained for, a chance to study alien ecosystems and creatures firsthand. The humans who had come before him had left notes, journals, and warnings about Zythera's unpredictable wildlife, but nothing could prepare him for the intensity of the city's presence. He made his way to his new apartment, a small, sturdy unit tucked into one of the lower spires. The door slid open with a soft hiss, revealing a tidy interior furnished with sleek, functional designs. Before he could step further, a sharp, commanding voice cut through the air. "Human, why is there a mini Shai Hulud between your legs?" Eli froze. His heart skipped a beat as he turned toward the source. Standing in the doorway was Lyra, his landlady, a tall, slender alien with amber eyes that seemed to pierce straight into his thoughts. Her skin shimmered faintly in the warm light, changing subtly with her mood, and her posture radiated authority and curiosity simultaneously. Eli's eyes darted downward in confusion and horror. Between his legs wriggled a tiny sand-colored creature, its segmented body curling slightly as if acknowledging its own presence. This was Miri, a small symbiotic creature he had brought along for observation, a being that had bonded with him in the weeks prior to his departure from Earth. He had assumed it would remain unnoticed, tucked discreetly in his personal kit. I didn't mean for you to see it," Eli stammered. It's harmless, really. Miri is intelligent, but it's tiny. It just—" Lyra's eyes widened slightly, though she maintained her composure. Her voice, a mix of reprimand and fascination, betrayed a hint of something else. Curiosity, maybe even intrigue. Intelligent, tiny. That doesn't explain why it's literally there. She gestured toward Miri with a long, graceful hand. Eli swallowed, feeling a flush of embarrassment creep up his neck. He could not deny the truth. Miri was unique, sentient, and deeply bonded with him. Yet explaining its nature to an alien, especially one who clearly had little tolerance for eccentric human behavior, felt like walking a tightrope. As he bent down to gently scoop Miri into his hands, Lyra tilted her head, observing every movement. Eli noticed the subtle shift in her expression. Her initial shock was giving way to a cautious curiosity. She wasn't just a strict landlady. There was something deeper, a glimmer of intelligence and emotional awareness that intrigued him, even amid the absurdity of the situation. For a long moment, neither spoke. Eli held Miri carefully, feeling the creature's soft, almost imperceptible vibrations. It responded to his touch, radiating a sense of calm and trust that Eli hoped Lyra would understand. Finally, Lyra spoke, her voice softer now. "Fine, but you must explain this thing of yours, human, fully." And with that, Eli realized this apartment, this strange city, would be more than a place to study alien creatures. It might also be the start of a lesson in understanding not just Zythera, but the complexities of connection, trust, and perhaps something even more human: intimacy. As the suns dipped lower, casting the room in molten gold, Eli smiled nervously. This was only the beginning.
The next morning, sunlight filtered through the transparent walls of Eli's apartment, painting the room in hues of amber and rose. Miri curled contentedly in its small organic pod, its tiny body pulsing faintly with light. Eli had spent hours researching Zythera's fauna before his arrival, but nothing had prepared him for the depth of emotion and intelligence that creatures like Miri could possess. Lyra arrived punctually, as if on a silent schedule only she could keep. She floated into the apartment, her movements graceful but deliberate, each step measured as though the floor beneath her might betray her. Eli straightened, trying to appear calm, though a knot of anxiety had settled in his chest. "You will explain," Lyra said, her voice clipped but tinged with curiosity. "This creature, its purpose, why you have it." Eli nodded, taking a deep breath. "This is Miri. It's a symbiotic organism, native to the deserts outside the city. It bonds with humans on a neurological level. It can sense emotions, respond to stress, even communicate subtly." Lyra's amber eyes narrowed as she studied him. "So it is not a pet?" "No," Eli said quickly. "It's more like an extension of who I am. It helps me understand life here, helps me survive." He watched carefully as Lyra's expression shifted. Surprise softened into interest. She leaned slightly closer, observing Miri as it pulsed with gentle warmth. "I have never seen anything like this," Lyra admitted. "Most humans are simple, fragile. You are different." Eli felt a flicker of pride, though tempered by embarrassment. Lyra's acknowledgement wasn't just fascination, it was approval, and that was rare from someone as stoic as her. He could see the gears turning behind her eyes, curiosity wrestling with caution, as though she were assessing him, his intentions, and perhaps even the nature of humanity itself. Their conversation was interrupted by a distant commotion in the street below. The city alive with energy rarely allowed a quiet moment. Hovercrafts hummed overhead, carrying travelers and merchants. Traders shouted prices for exotic minerals and plants, and in the corners of the streets, shadows hinted at more sinister presences, rogue factions and desert hunters known for their merciless tactics. Eli's stomach tightened. This was Zythera. Beautiful, fascinating, but not without danger. Lyra's voice cut through his thoughts. "If you are to keep that creature here, human, you must understand the risk. Many want what you have." Eli frowned. "Miri isn't a commodity. It's alive, sentient. It's not something to be hunted." Her gaze softened slightly, betraying an emotion she rarely showed: concern. "Then you must be careful. Survival here is not about strength. It is about awareness, timing, and trust. Trust in your instincts and in others." The afternoon passed with Eli giving her a guided demonstration. He showed how Miri responded to his emotions. A subtle pulse when he was anxious, a warmer glow when he felt calm. Lyra watched intently, her skepticism giving way to fascination. As the hours went by, a bond began to form, not just between Eli and Lyra, but also between Lyra and Miri. The creature, sensing her curiosity and respect, pulsed in greeting, an unspoken acknowledgement that bridged species and worlds. By evening, the two stood side by side on the apartment balcony, gazing at the sprawling desert beyond the city. The twin suns were setting, casting long shadows over the sand dunes and illuminating the floating towers with golden light. Eli felt something he hadn't expected: a quiet warmth, a connection not just with Miri, but with Lyra. She too seemed changed, her posture less rigid, her expression softened as if the tiny creature had unlocked a part of her she had long kept hidden. "I don't know what humans can do in a world like this," Lyra said quietly, almost to herself. But perhaps you are capable of more than I imagined." Eli smiled faintly, unsure whether to take it as a compliment or a challenge. He realized then that the city, the desert, and even this small apartment would test him in ways he could never anticipate. And yet, for the first time since leaving Earth, he felt a glimmer of belonging. Above them, Miri pulsed softly as if acknowledging the unspoken promise that survival here was not just about endurance, but about the connections that made life meaningful, even on an alien world.
The days that followed brought a delicate rhythm to Eli's life on Zythera. He spent mornings cataloging local flora and fauna, afternoons observing Miri's behavior, and evenings on the balcony with Lyra, where the twin suns painted the desert in hues of gold and crimson. Though at first their interactions were formal, landlady and tenant, they gradually evolved into something subtler, something almost unspoken. Lyra's curiosity about Miri never waned. She watched as the tiny creature pulsed with emotion, responding to Eli's thoughts and feelings. She had never encountered a human capable of such depth, nor a creature so attuned to its human companion. One evening, as a warm wind blew in from the desert, Eli held Miri gently in his hands, and the creature's glow brightened. "You see," Eli said softly, noticing Lyra's fascination, "it responds to feelings, fear, joy, calm, even uncertainty. It forms bonds that go beyond words." Lyra tilted her head, studying the tiny being, "And it communicates with you?" "Yes," Eli replied, "not with words, not like you or I, but it senses, it understands. It's almost like a mirror of my emotions, and somehow it senses yours too." Her amber eyes narrowed, intrigued yet cautious. She reached out a slender hand, hovering over Miri without touching it. For a brief moment, the tiny creature pulsed rapidly, sending a flicker of light toward her. Lyra felt a subtle shift in her mind, a connection she could neither fully describe nor ignore. Eli noticed. "It's responding to you. Maybe it recognizes your openness, even if you won't admit it." Lyra stiffened slightly, but did not withdraw. Instead, she allowed a faint smile to form, almost imperceptible, as if acknowledging a secret she wasn't ready to voice. In that moment, Eli realized that Miri had become more than a companion. It was a bridge between him and Lyra, linking two very different beings in a shared understanding. Their growing intimacy, however, was not unnoticed. Rumors drifted through the city like desert dust, tales of rare creatures that humans had brought, creatures whose abilities could be exploited by rogue factions. Eli's heart sank when he learned that certain organizations considered beings like Miri as valuable commodities. One evening, Lyra's usual stoicism cracked. She leaned against the balcony railing, her gaze fixed on the horizon. "You are not safe here," she said quietly. "People will come for it, for you. The city may look welcoming, but there are hunters, scientists, and opportunists who will stop at nothing." Eli's jaw tightened. "I know, but I can't just leave Miri, or this world. There's so much to learn here, and I can't ignore the connection." Lyra's gaze softened. "You feel it too, don't you? That bond, the one that goes beyond species, beyond fear, even beyond language." Eli met her eyes, and for a brief, fragile moment, the air between them seemed charged with an emotion neither dared to name. He realized then that his connection to Miri had awakened something in him, a capacity for care, empathy, and even love that extended beyond the human species. And Lyra, despite her alien reserve, was beginning to mirror that awakening. The night deepened, the city below alive with faint luminescence. Miri pulsed gently in Eli's hands, almost like a heartbeat, responding to the unspoken tension in the air. For the first time, Eli and Lyra felt themselves not just as human and alien, landlady and tenant, but as two souls learning to navigate the fragile bridge of connection and trust. Yet even as the bond deepened, an undercurrent of danger loomed. Eli knew the city's shadows were long, that those who sought Miri's abilities would not wait, and that the desert beyond held threats far deadlier than curiosity. The growing trust and affection between him and Lyra was now intertwined with suspense, a test of courage, intellect, and the very essence of what it meant to be human. And as the wind whispered across the balcony, carrying the scent of desert sand and distant storms, Eli realized that survival would depend not just on knowledge, but on the bonds they were forming, and on their willingness to protect one another, no matter the cost.
The next morning, the desert called. Eli had discovered a rare plant vital to Miri's health, growing only in the shifting dunes far beyond the city's protective barriers. The plant, known as Luminara, was rumored to emit a faint psychic resonance that Miri could absorb, strengthening its bond with Eli. Yet retrieving it meant venturing into the heart of Zythera's perilous desert, a landscape both breathtaking and deadly. Lyra appeared at his apartment doorway before dawn, her expression unreadable. "I'm coming with you," she stated. There was no room for argument in her tone, only the quiet authority Eli had begun to respect. "You can't," he protested. "The desert is dangerous. There are sand predators, rogue factions." "I've lived on this planet longer than you've walked its streets. I know the desert better than anyone in this city. You won't survive alone, human." Reluctantly, Eli nodded. They packed supplies: water pods, protective suits, and a small containment unit for Miri. As they stepped into the rising sun, the desert stretched endlessly before them, golden dunes rolling like liquid fire. The wind whipped fine sand into their eyes, carrying with it the eerie calls of unseen creatures. At first, the journey was silent, each lost in thought. Eli studied the terrain, mapping subtle wind patterns and plant clusters. Lyra, moving with grace and precision, navigated with an instinct honed by years of experience. It was a strange partnership, human curiosity paired with alien intuition, but it worked. Slowly, they began to rely on each other in ways neither expected. Hours into the trek, danger struck. A sudden sandstorm erupted, howling across the dunes with blinding intensity. The world became a swirling inferno of red and gold, and Eli felt panic rising. Miri, sensing his fear, pulsed violently, sending a warm, calming glow toward him. Lyra grabbed his arm. "Focus, human. Trust the creature. Trust yourself. Trust me." Together, they found shelter in a shallow cavern, huddling against the wall as the storm raged outside. The shared experience of vulnerability created a bond neither could deny. Eli caught a fleeting glance of Lyra, her amber eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. Despite her usual stoicism, fear and concern for him were visible, and strangely comforting. After the storm passed, the desert revealed another danger: predators adapted to the harsh environment. Sand serpents, nearly invisible against the dunes, struck without warning. Eli and Lyra worked seamlessly. He distracted the creatures with controlled vibrations, while she moved with lethal precision, driving the predators away. Miri, sensing their teamwork, pulsed in synchrony, almost like a heartbeat guiding their actions. By nightfall, they reached the oasis where Luminara grew, its faint blue glow visible even under the twin moons. Exhausted but exhilarated, Eli knelt beside the plants, carefully harvesting the fragile leaves. Lyra watched, a rare softness in her gaze. "You care deeply," she said quietly, almost to herself, "for this creature, for life, for me." Eli met her eyes, feeling the weight of her words. "I care because it matters," he said simply. "All of it. The desert, Miri, and you."
Lyra's lips curved into the faintest of smiles, and for a moment the desert felt less lonely, less threatening. The journey back would still be dangerous, but they had survived together. Their bond had strengthened not just through shared peril, but through trust, compassion, and the subtle sparks of something more profound, a connection that went beyond words or species. As they set up camp under the stars, Miri curled between them, pulsing gently. Eli realized that survival on Zythera was not merely about navigating the external dangers of the desert. It was about understanding the internal landscape of emotion, trust, and courage. And for the first time, he felt that he and Lyra could face anything together. But the desert was not done with them yet. From the shadows beyond the dunes, unseen eyes watched, and Eli could feel a faint vibration in the sand, an ominous reminder that danger was always near, and that their bond, fragile and precious, would soon be tested in ways they could not yet imagine.
Night fell over the desert with a quiet, almost reverent stillness. The twin moons of Zythera cast silver light across the dunes, and the stars shimmered like scattered jewels in the vast sky. Eli and Lyra had set up a small camp near the oasis, the glow of the Luminara plants reflecting softly in their eyes. Exhaustion clung to their bodies after the long trek, but the shared hardship had drawn them closer in ways words could not capture. Eli sat cross-legged beside Miri, carefully tending to the little creature as it absorbed the nutrients of the Luminara leaves. Its body pulsed rhythmically, almost like a heartbeat, in tune with the desert's quiet energy. Lyra watched him from across the small fire pit, her expression softening. For the first time, she let her guard down, her usual stoicism replaced with something more vulnerable. "You care deeply for this creature," she observed quietly, her voice carrying the faintest hint of awe. "And yet, it seems to have awakened something in you as well." Eli glanced up, meeting her amber eyes. The intensity of her gaze startled him, not with aggression, but with an almost unspoken invitation to trust. "Miri, it's more than a companion. It senses things about me I don't even fully understand. It's teaching me patience, empathy, trust. It's teaching me what it means to care, for more than just survival." Lyra's expression flickered, revealing emotions she rarely allowed anyone to see. "And what about humans?" she asked. Her tone was measured, but there was curiosity beneath it, a subtle tremor of something unsaid. Eli swallowed, feeling the weight of her question. He had left Earth seeking knowledge, adventure, and purpose, yet in her presence he felt an awakening that went deeper than science. I care for life, all life. But you? I care for you too, Lyra, in ways I can't yet explain." For a heartbeat, the desert was still. Only the soft hum of Luminara plants and the quiet pulsing of Miri filled the air. Lyra's amber eyes softened, a faint smile tugging at the corner of her lips. "You humans, capable of such emotion, even in the face of danger. Perhaps I underestimated you." Eli felt a warmth spread through him, a mixture of relief, excitement, and vulnerability. He had survived deserts, storms, and predators, yet it was this quiet moment of honesty that left him exposed, and strangely alive. The intimacy between them grew naturally, not forced, but inevitable. Sitting together under the moons, sharing stories of their pasts, fears, and hopes, Eli learned that Lyra had lived through loss and isolation, never allowing anyone to truly see her, and now she was letting him in, cautiously, one guarded moment at a time. Miri pulsed brighter, almost as if celebrating the bond forming between them. Eli reached out, placing his hand over Lyra's for the briefest of moments. Neither withdrew. The touch was gentle, electric, a confirmation of trust and connection that transcended language, species, and expectation. Suddenly, the stillness of the desert was shattered. A distant rumble rolled across the dunes, subtle at first, then growing,
a reminder that danger lurked beyond the oasis. Eli stood quickly, scanning the horizon, and Lyra's hand gripped his arm with quiet assurance. "We are not alone," she said. The momentary serenity was gone, replaced by the pressing awareness that the desert could not be tamed. And yet, even in the face of uncertainty, Eli felt a newfound confidence, born not just of survival instinct, but of emotional awakening. He and Lyra were no longer just allies. They were a team, connected by trust, vulnerability, and the subtle spark of something deeper. As the wind carried the scent of distant sandstorms, Eli realized the truth of the moment. Survival would demand courage, yes, but living fully, emotionally, bravely, and with love was an entirely different challenge, and he was ready to face it, with Lyra by his side and Miri pulsing gently between them, a living heartbeat of connection in the alien night.
The night's calm was deceptive. As Eli and Lyra packed their supplies to continue their journey back to the city, a subtle unease prickled at Eli's senses. Miri's pulsing glow had dimmed slightly, a silent warning that something was wrong. The desert, which had seemed vast and empty only hours ago, now felt like it was closing in. Before they could move, a shadow detached itself from the dunes, swift, precise, and unmistakably hostile. A group of humans and alien mercenaries emerged, armed with containment nets and strange scanning devices, clearly tracking Miri's psychic signature. Eli's heart raced. He realized immediately that they were not here for him, they were here for Miri. "Stay behind me," Eli whispered to Lyra, trying to keep his voice calm even as panic threatened to rise. Miri pulsed in response, a soft glow expanding as though readying for some unknown defense. The mercenaries advanced, and in the chaos, one of them lunged toward Lyra. Instinctively, Eli stepped forward, but Lyra reacted faster. Using a fluid combination of strength and agility, she fended off the attacker, but the movement exposed her to another assailant. Eli could only watch, horror tightening his chest as she was struck with a stun device, collapsing to the sand. "No!" Eli shouted, rushing to her side. Miri reacted violently, pulsing brighter than ever, its tiny body radiating psychic energy. The mercenary staggered back, clearly unprepared for the force of a bonded symbiotic creature reacting to its humans' fear and desperation. Eli lifted Lyra gently, ignoring his own trembling limbs. "You'll be okay," he muttered, though doubt gnawed at him. "I won't let them take you. Not you, not Miri, not what we've started to build." The mercenaries regrouped, surrounding them. Eli realized with chilling clarity that brute strength would not save them. They needed cunning, and fast. He whispered to Miri, trusting in the creature's connection to him. The little being pulsed in acknowledgement, sending waves of psychic energy toward the attackers. The mercenaries staggered, disoriented, giving Eli just enough time to move. They ran, the desert wind whipping sand into their faces. Eli carried Lyra across the dunes, Miri nestled safely against his chest, pulsing a soft, steady rhythm that seemed to guide their path. The desert had become an ally, the shifting sands hiding their escape, but Eli knew it was only temporary. When they finally found temporary shelter behind a rocky outcrop, Lyra stirred, her amber eyes flickering open. "You saved me," she said quietly, her voice rough but filled with emotion. You care more than I realized." Eli shook his head, exhausted but resolute. "I couldn't lose you," he admitted. "Not you, not Miri, not what we've started to build." Lyra's hand reached up, brushing a strand of sand-ducked hair from his forehead. "And I care too, Eli, more than I ever thought possible. You humans, you are capable of courage and love that even we aliens cannot fully understand." The moment of vulnerability passed quickly as they realized the danger was far from over. The faction tracking Miri would not give up, and their escape through the desert was only temporary. Eli felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on him, not just for survival, but for the life of the being that had become part of him, and for the woman who had chosen to trust him in a world that could kill them without hesitation. As the twin moons rose high, casting silvery light over the dunes, Eli and Lyra exchanged a silent understanding. They were no longer merely allies in survival. They were a team, bonded by trust, fear, and something more profound, an emotional connection neither had expected but both now relied upon. Miri pulsed steadily between them, a living heartbeat of their bond, signaling that the trials ahead would be faced together. And though danger stalked them in every shadow, Eli felt a fierce determination ignite within him. He would protect Lyra, Miri, and their shared future, no matter the cost. The desert, alive with unseen eyes, had tested them, and it had only begun to reveal the depth of what it would take to survive.
The night air was tense, carrying the scent of sand and something more sinister, an invisible presence watching their every move. Eli crouched behind a jagged outcrop, Lyra resting lightly against him, her amber eyes scanning the horizon. Miri pulsed gently in his hands, a calm contrast to the storm of fear and determination swirling around them. "We can't wait here," Eli whispered. "They'll regroup and they'll come for us, and Miri again." Lyra nodded, her expression hardening. "Then we go to them," she said simply. "We take the fight to the faction before they can act. You humans, you never shy away from direct action, do you?" Eli shook his head. "Not when it's the only option." By dawn, they had tracked the mercenaries to a hidden facility carved into the desert cliffs. The structures were a blend of alien architecture and human technology designed for containment and observation. Eli's heart pounded as he surveyed the compound. Inside, he could sense Miri's kindred creatures, some trapped, some weak, evidence of the faction's ruthless exploitation. Lyra whispered instructions, her voice precise and calm. "We move quietly, distraction first, then extraction. Miri can guide us." Eli nodded, feeling a surge of trust in the bond that had grown between them. They approached the compound under the cover of shifting sand currents, Miri pulsing in response, signaling a psychic path through the maze-like corridors. Their steps were synchronized, silent, almost ritualistic. Inside, they found their adversaries, humans and aliens alike, monitoring cages filled with rare creatures. Eli's blood ran cold. One of the cages held Miri's distant relatives, small, glowing, fragile beings, like the one he had carried from Earth. He clenched his fists. "We saved them all," he murmured. Lyra's hand rested on his shoulder, grounding him. "Focus, human. First Miri, then the rest." Using Miri's psychic pulses, Eli created subtle distractions, sending waves of light and energy that disoriented the guards. Lyra moved like a shadow, disabling devices and quietly subduing anyone in their path. Step by step, they advanced toward the containment room, each moment testing their nerves and coordination. Finally, they reached the inner chamber. Miri's glow intensified, signaling the proximity of its own kind. Eli carefully unlocked the containment units, letting the creatures flow out, their soft pulsing illuminating the dim space. The faction leader appeared then, a tall, menacing figure with cybernetic implants, eyes cold and calculating. "You humans are remarkable," the leader said, his voice echoing in the chamber. "Bonded with such creatures, you could be the key to unprecedented power." Eli stepped forward, voice steady. "Miri isn't a tool. They're alive. They're family." Lyra moved beside him, and for the first time Eli saw her protective instinct fully awaken. "And if you harm them, you'll answer to both of us." The confrontation escalated. Using a combination of Miri's psychic energy and their own agility, Eli and Lyra disarmed and subdued the leader. The creatures, sensing safety, pulsed in unison, amplifying the energy that pushed back the remaining guards. In a final, desperate moment, the faction leader tried to seize Miri, but Lyra's swift action and Eli's bond with the creature thwarted him, leaving him incapacitated. When the dust settled, the creatures were free, and the facility was silent except for their soft pulsing. Eli and Lyra stood together, catching their breath, realizing the enormity of what they had accomplished. Lyra's voice was quiet but sincere. "You humans, capable of courage, empathy, and love. I underestimated you, and I underestimated the bond you share with Miri." Eli smiled faintly, feeling the warmth of connection radiate between them. "It's more than that," he said. "It's proof that humans can care deeply, survive against odds, and find love even in the strangest of places." Miri pulsed softly in Eli's hands, as if affirming the sentiment. The desert outside, once threatening and hostile, now felt like a world of possibility. Harsh, yes, but alive, waiting to be understood and cherished. Eli realized then that survival had never been just about escaping danger. It had been about understanding, connection, and the courage to protect what matters most. And in that moment, with Lyra by his side and Miri glowing gently between them, he knew they were ready for whatever came next. The desert dawn stretched over Zythera like a molten sea, the twin suns casting long golden rays across the dunes. Eli and Lyra walked side by side, their steps synchronized, Miri pulsing softly between them. The creatures they had rescued from the faction's facility followed closely, forming a luminous trail that shimmered in the early light. For the first time since Eli arrived on this alien world, he felt a profound sense of belonging, not just to the planet, but to its life, its rhythm, and to Lyra. Back in the city, the streets seemed quieter, almost reflective, as if the world itself acknowledged the events that had unfolded. Eli and Lyra returned to the apartment they shared temporarily, but it was no longer just a place to live, it was a sanctuary. Eli carefully tended to Miri and the other creatures, ensuring they were safe, fed, and comfortable. Lyra assisted, her movements precise yet gentle, revealing a side of her that few ever saw: empathy, patience, and care. "You've done something extraordinary here, Eli," Lyra said quietly as they watched Miri interact with its kin. "Not only for the creatures, but for everyone who underestimates humans. You've proven humans can be more than they seem." Eli smiled, the warmth in her words sinking into him. "We can survive, yes, but more importantly, we can care, we can connect, we can love." He hesitated, then reached for her hand. "And we can choose to protect what matters, even when the odds are against us." Lyra's amber eyes softened. For the first time, she allowed herself to fully meet his gaze. "I've shown you what I've been missing all these years," she admitted. "That life can be more than survival. That love can exist even between the most unlikely of beings." Their fingers intertwined, a small but powerful affirmation of trust and connection. Miri pulsed gently, almost like a heartbeat, as if recognizing the bond forming between them. The little creature had not only been a guide through danger, but a bridge between species, between two souls learning to trust and care for one another. Together, they established a small sanctuary on the outskirts of the city, blending Eli's scientific knowledge with Lyra's local expertise. They cultivated spaces for rare and endangered creatures, protecting them from exploitation and study by those who sought power over life. Word spread quietly through the city, and soon other humans and aliens began to respect and admire the sanctuary, seeing it as a place of harmony, empathy, and survival guided by compassion. Evenings were spent on the balcony, watching the twin suns set over the desert. Eli often reflected on how much had changed in so little time. He had come seeking knowledge, adventure, and perhaps a purpose, but he found more: connection, understanding, and love. Lyra, once so reserved and cautious, now laughed with ease, shared stories of her past, and allowed herself to hope for the future. One night, as the moons rose and the desert winds whispered softly, Lyra rested her head on Eli's shoulder. "I never thought I could trust anyone like this," she whispered. "But now, I cannot imagine life without you." Eli felt Miri pulse against his chest, a gentle affirmation, and smiled. "We're stronger together, you, me, and Miri, and anyone we choose to protect." The creatures pulsed around them, a living testament to their bond, to humanity's courage, and to the power of love that transcends worlds. Zythera was vast, wild, and dangerous, but in the heart of its desert, a human, an alien, and a tiny Shai Hulud had discovered what it truly meant to survive, to care, and to live fully. As the twin suns dipped below the horizon, Eli and Lyra shared a quiet smile. Danger had tested them, fear had strengthened them, and love had bound them together. And in that moment, the story of humanity on an alien world reached a simple truth. No matter how strange the world, the capacity to love, to care, and to rise above fear was what truly made a human extraordinary. The desert stretched endlessly before them, full of challenges yet to come. But with trust, courage, and the light of connection guiding them, Eli, Lyra, and Miri were ready to face it all together.